the decision on this important question should be taken here in the Assembly, not as in the committee, by a two-thirds majority of the members present and voting. We will proceed the roll call.
I don't think in the annals of history there's another story quite like this Jewish saga that culminated on November 29th, 1947. Think about it for a moment. Jews who've identified with that part of the world for literally thousands of years, their birthplace, gathered around an idea which became a faith connected to a land, connected to a people, connected to a language, and connected to a dream, the dream of a nation. And what was achieved is something that frankly is not to be believed. One might say it was enough that the state was established against all the odds, against the wishes of the Arab world, over the hesitation of the British rulers of Palestine, against the backdrop of the Holocaust, which had just ended its tragedies just over 2 years before. But think about it. It wasn't just a state that was established. It was a state that was built. It was built with a flag, a national anthem that was called the Hope. It was built on an idea of the ingathering of the exiles, and Jews came. It was built on the idea of democracy, and democracy flourished. It was built on the idea of peaceful coexistence with its neighbors, and it took many years, and in some respects is still incomplete, but the effort goes on. It was built on the notion of a state becoming a light unto the nations, part of the Jewish mission statement, but hard to achieve and given the difficulties of statecraft, but nonetheless a goal. And it was built on the belief that Israel and the Jewish people and this new state had something to contribute to world civilization, to advance the frontiers of human knowledge, to contribute to the well-being of others as well, for Israel, in other words, to become part of the family of nations.
60 years ago, practically to the minute, the United Nations, while the world was still sifting through the ashes of the Holocaust and the ruins of the Second World War, met to take what I believe is one of the most momentous decisions in history. But it really was the official recognition and declaration of the State of Israel. And by doing that, the United Nations had not only done justice to the Jewish people, it has not just recognized or declared the existence of another state. It has created a country that has contributed to mankind and to humanity, not just to itself or to the Jewish people, more than most other member states of the United Nations. A country which is daily making deserts bloom all over the world with its agriculture, which is every second making limbs move in different parts of the world with its medicine, which is making the world a richer and better place with its art and music, with its innovations and patents. Israel has become a much more accepted and normal member of the United Nations. That same body that maybe if it had to vote today would not reach that same decision is today accepting Israel in many ways which were unthinkable 60 years ago. It has proven it by adopting a resolution declaring the 27th of January Holocaust Remembrance Day, International Holocaust Remembrance Day. It has proved it by numerous resolutions condemning either suicide bombings or the acts of violence by Hezbollah and Hamas. And I believe that in 60 years, when we celebrate 120, we will have still many more achievements to show and many, many more successes to be proud of.
The whole crowd seemed to have been turned to stone in that frightening night silence, as if they were not real people but hundreds of dark silhouettes painted on the canvas of the flickering darkness. as though they had died on their feet. Not a word was heard, not a cough, not a footstep, not a mosquito hummed. Only the deep, rough voice of the American presenter, blaring from the radio which was set at full volume and made the night air tremble. Or it may have been the voice of the President of the Assembly, the Brazilian Osvaldo Aranha. One after another, he read out the names of the last countries on the list in English alphabetical order, followed immediately by the reply of their representative. United Kingdom abstains.
United States, yes. Uruguay, yes. Venezuela, yes. Yemen, no. Yugoslavia, abstain.
Then the deep, slightly hoarse voice came back, making the air shake, as it summed up with a rough dryness, brimming with excitement.
The resolution of the Dutch Committee for Palestine was adopted by 33 votes, 13 against, 10 abstentions.
The resolution is approved. His voice was swallowed up in a roar that burst from the radio, overflowing from the galleries in the hall at Lake Success, and after a couple more seconds of shock and disbelief, of lips parted as though in thirst and eyes wide open, our faraway street on the edge of Kerem Avraham in northern Jerusalem also roared all at once in a first terrifying shout that tore through the darkness and the buildings and the trees, piercing itself, not a shout of joy, nothing like the shouts of spectators in sports grounds, or excited rioting crowds, perhaps more like a scream of horror and bewilderment, a cataclysmic shout, a shout that could shift rocks, that could freeze your blood, as though all the dead who had ever died here, and all those still to die, had received a brief window to shout.
This is a moment in time for us to step back from the daily events and to look at that larger picture. The notion of a small people, the Jewish people, for thousands of years connected spiritually, theologically, culturally, in every which way to a piece of land, with the yearning to be on that land as a sovereign presence, to reestablish the Jewish nation, to rebuild a language, and to contribute to the human well-being. This is what Israel represents. And if we want to look at a starting point in modern history, there's no better place to look than November 29th, 1947, that day when the General Assembly member states met, and one by one those nations cast their vote, and the overwhelming majority said yes to the recommendation for a two-state solution. Months later, that state was established, and as they say, the rest is history. Very proud history for those of us who believe in the state, who believe in its purpose, and who believe in its mission.